Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2022 Mona Campus Council meeting. The meeting is called to order, and I welcome you all, principal and senior leadership of the university. Welcome to this meeting this morning. It has been a very tough year for the University of the West Indies. The past year, 2020-2021, has been one of the university campus's probably most challenging years since its foundation in 1948. The university's capacity was tested to the limits by the COVID-19 pandemic, which affected all aspects of our operation. There were significant changes to many of our regular practices, including our teaching and learning methods, management of our facilities, and health and safety management of the staff and students. The impact of the coronavirus on the economy was also very severe, resulting in a reduction in GDP of between 8 and 10%. From its limited budget, the country had to allocate significant funding to support the vulnerable institutions, citizens, with the purchase of COVID-19 vaccines and general support for the citizenry. The government and the university also had to find, from its meager resources, funds to equip the hospitals and clinics across the country. As a result of the institutional bureaucracy which we have developed since inception at the UWI Mona, we were well equipped to deal with the effects of COVID-19. These structures, including policies, procedures, and people, made the university prepared to manage the crisis by utilizing the institutional scaffolding of administration, crisis management,
recording in progress,
academic skills, and the available financial resources, and the support of international partners and the Jamaican government. The university was able to survive and to transform. These latent assets served the university very well as we pivoted to online learning, a technique that the UWI Open Campus had developed over time. Our ability to respond and continue to provide access to people of the region was largely due to the agility of the management and administrative staff and the system-wide integrative capacities. The UWI Mona was prepared institutionally through its risk management practices and procedures to deal with the crisis. I say this to remind us that our university, since its inception in 1948, developed processes and procedures to withstand almost anything. We all remember Hurricane Gilbert and how this university was devastated, but through that institutional framework, which some call bureaucracy, we were able to live through and to actually prosper. In this vein, I wish to thank and recognize the work of the Finance Subcommittee of the Finance and General Purposes Committee, comprising of Jeffrey Cobham, Paris Lewayi, Audrey Anderson, Justice Dennis Morrison, Professor Tennant, and the principal in attendance. That committee provided good oversight for the campus by interrogating the decisions of the UWI's management to improve the outcome of their decisions. Through its efforts, many contracts have been renegotiated, and there has been a rigorous effort to reduce costs and to improve efficiencies. These efforts are beginning to show positive results. At this point, I must also recognize our campus bursar, Mrs. Catherine Park-Thwaites, for her efforts in this exercise as well. The deans who have been the vanguards of our university by maintaining globally recognized high academic standards and by promoting important research work being done at this university must also be commended. The Mona campus participated in the finalization of the Chancellor's Governance Commission review and report by providing valuable feedback and suggestions, all aimed at maintaining the great institution that we have at the University of the West Indies. And I must say that it's at a special meeting of council last Friday, that governance report and the review commission's adjustments to the report were accepted. The university continues to enjoy a dynamic and productive reciprocal relationship with the private sector. The private sector depends on the university to provide the human resource needed in a competitive, knowledge-driven world. And in turn, the university is supported by the private sector in many ways. You would have seen the many contributions made from the private sector over the past year. The one from National Bakery sticks out in my mind, but I also must single out a quiet unit of private sector persons in a body called UWI Development and Endowment Fund, UWIDF, which is an institution funded by the private sector, dedicated to sourcing funding to support needy students and the infrastructure development at UWI Mona. The university's relationship with the government of Jamaica remains strong, as the UWI performs an important role in the national education policy outcomes. On behalf of the university, I extend gratitude to the members of the University Council, the members of the university community, for their contribution to the success of our university during these challenging times. Thank you very much. And with that said, I hand over to the principal now to give his report.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and good morning, members of Council. Morning to the Vice Chancellor, morning to members of Council who are here in the room and those who are on Zoom. Good morning to colleagues from other campuses. Good morning to all who are joining through UETV. Welcome to the UWI Mona Campus Council Report, Redefining Possibilities. The University of the West Indies Mona Campus is not just one person. It's not just a view held by just myself. I have a team around me which has allowed us to do all that the chairman has just outlined. Our deputy principal, our registrar, bursar, our deputy registrar, deputy bursar, our deans, members of the executive team, they have all played a key part in ensuring that the UWI Mona campus has had a successful year. Almost a part of our senior management is the Guild president, Ms. Danielle Mullings, who has, through her advocacy, been able to participate in the development and operations of the campus. By bringing ideas and thoughts to the senior management, she's allowed us to involve the University Guild as a part of the decision-making process. And we're grateful to have a partner within the student body who have helped us, kept us on our toes, but also taken the information as it unfolds within the university back to the campus, to the larger body. In an especially difficult year where her people, her students were all over the country and beyond, Danielle has been an outstanding president and we thank her for her leadership. I will, throughout this presentation, take you through our strategic plan in terms of where we are now, the COVID management report, which consumed a lot of what we've done for the year, and then, as usual, we will use access, alignment, and agility as our three pillars as we take you through the year. And this is the year 2020 to 2021. Our strategic plan is in its fourth year, or came to the end of its fourth year at the end of 2021. It's the 2017 to 22 strategic plan. And with 1 year left, we decided the 11 initiatives that we had, we would try and take them through to completion by adding an icon, adding an imagery that would allow us to resonate within the campus and within the members of the campus as they took on board the activities. With that said, at the end of 2021, our strategic plan had completed a lot of the initiatives. We had 90% completed our energy management. We're 90% complete on our graduate access. We're about 60% complete on our staff development, 90% on our improvement of health in terms of our health education, and about 50% for our academic training. And while that's only 50%, we consider that on target because it's an ongoing, ever-moving target where we would like to continuously train staff. We're about 55% on our improved library, and that too is a continuing movement, and we think we're still on target. Also on target is our digital transformation, which really needs financial support to get us over the next hurdle, but we'll come to that in a few moments. We're about 80% complete on trying to change how we are viewed by our students and staff. This is trying to have an elevated Mona experience. We'll be working on that over this final year and have been, and hopefully we will get to the 100% as we wish for all our targets. For Initiative 9, we're about 30%, and this is because we've started this one a little late. And research has been impacted by COVID in a way that none of us could have expected. So we'll need to do a lot of work to get to 100%, and we really only have about 5 months left. Initiative 10, we're on targets. This is a consolidation, and we should, in our next 2 or 3 FNGPC meetings, complete the consolidations that are happening in the bursary, in the registry, the principal's office, the deputy principal's office, which accrue to major savings and better organization, greater efficiency. And then on target, our increase in revenue from commercial operations, trying to gain financial health, and we think we will be on target by the end of this year. Our COVID management report occupies a fair amount of what we do. Our COVID management team was a team led by myself, but had major contributions in various components. We had the senior management, we had members from all the unions, we had members from our HR, because a lot of what we did in COVID management was to manage the human resource. We had the effective agents who would make things work on the ground, from our estate management, etc. Then we had our medical crew from the Dean, Professor Abel from Psychiatry and ComHealth, Dr. Anglin Brown, our new director of the Health Center, Dr. Hilton Kong, and Debbie Ann Chambers, the head of our counseling unit. And then we had a lot of help from those who actually put us in the right place. Katie and Martin, our director of Markham, Mr. Harty, who ran around trying to make sure that we got everything in place in terms of our sanitation, and our PPP head, who helped us with a lot of the information. We put it in 3 categories in terms of what we achieved. The documentation, which we put online and made available so that there's a framework for operations, and all could go to a website and determine what should happen next. If you had a COVID case, what would you do? How would we do face-to-face exams? How would we do face-to-face instructions? And this allowed us to disseminate information in a very formal but still understandable fashion. We had the right people in place in terms of having our management team, our implementation team, having COVID monitors who actually moved around the campus and brought information back to the team. We had our courtesy officers who were responsible for doing a lot of the legwork, and our security team helped with that as well. And then members of our counseling team who helped with keeping us in the right mind frame. Many interventions were taken on board, repairs to the health center, which were long overdue, well needed, but had to be put in place if we were going to be able to tackle COVID. We put in sneeze guards and protective barriers across many areas of our campus, starting with the library through the faculty offices. We repaired bathrooms because it turned out it was easier for us to have continuous washing of hands than to put up 1 million stations in terms of hand sanitizers. But with that, we still put up 200 hand sanitization centers around the campus, and of course, some no-touch infrared thermometers. All of this, the Bursa tells me, we spent $80 million that we had no budget for, but as Chairman Jarrett said, we had to do what we had to do. For the students, we decided we would reduce the number of students in hall, we would change the mechanism by which you would get in hall, we would have a vaccine mandate to be in hall, which caused a fair amount of consternation, but with the support of the Guild president, we were able to have this confirmed. And we worked with face-to-face instructional sessions, especially for labs, clinics, tutorials. For the staff, we had a rotation staff process where we had small spaces, staff were able to work on rotation or work from home where feasible. We modified our leave arrangements, and we provided as much support in terms of counseling and psychological support as we could. And within our operations, we limited some of what we would have as our normal walk-in to have just essential persons in. We enhanced the cleaning and disinfecting, and we ensured that all the protocols were in place. But more than that, we then found that we were able to respond. We were able to make a national impact. And the 2 examples I'll share with Council are the Mona Aging and Wellness Center, which partnered with the Ministry of Health and Wellness in its target to vaccinate 65% of the Jamaican population by March 2022. Where are we now, Chairman? March 2022. We're not quite at the 65%, but I think Mona Aging and Wellness has done its part. It is now a permanent vaccination site. It started as a temporary site, and then as you can see there with the Blitz, we were able to use two of our large centers, the Old Dramatic Theatre and the Old Library, with the adequate spacing to actually do vaccination through the Blitz. That worked so well that the Ministry of Health and Wellness has made us a permanent site. And I'd like to thank Prof. Denise Eldemire-Shera with Dr. Tanya Edwards, who I'll say a word about in a moment, and Ms. Annie Watkins, who whipped everybody into shape to ensure that this vaccination center works well. I'd also like to send commendations through Dean Thame to her students. There are 5 medical students who, throughout thick and thin, throughout classes resuming, they continue to volunteer, and they're still there even now. We've so far vaccinated 57,000 persons, which puts us at about 10% of the national average, of the national number, and we are above the national average. And we offer specialized service. For instance, you can get vaccinated in your car if you are immobile or if you have any disabilities. You can get vaccinated outside of the center or in the center, and you can get all the vaccines. Our MonaMedia Informatics Institute was also a key partner in producing a map driven by information and data, which allowed the government of Jamaica and the private sector to determine where were the areas of high vulnerability and high vaccination rates, or low vulnerability and low vaccination rates, etc., to determine where to place the best effort in terms of trying to find that vaccination number, getting it up to 65%. Being able to use data to drive decisions is one of the best contributions that the UWI Mona campus has been able to do. Driving decisions, for instance, which schools should reopen. Again, the MonaMedia Informatics Institute partnered with the private sector organization and the government of Jamaica through the Ministry of Education with a list of schools, looking at, are they in vulnerable areas? What's their COVID community around? What's the population of the school? What's the size of the school and the classrooms? What internet connectivity do they have? Could they do something elsewhere? What student mobility do they have? And what's the water supply, since clearly we had to do washing? We then created a list which allowed a ranking based on all this information to determine which school should reopen when. Contribution to national efforts, a major part of the Mona campus. We continued our management by having research seminars available on justice, on education, health and wellness, entertainment, and we found that our students and staff participated in a way never before, larger numbers than we've ever seen, and being able to put their views out to the wider public. We would like to then talk about some champions. And I just decided to pick a few champions because the entire campus littered with champions. The champions we decided to highlight were here because they've done special deeds or continued to do special things. I start with Debbie Ann Chambers, who is head of the counseling unit, who at every step of the way from the first day of COVID kept us mindful of minding our minds. She kept us grounded, kept us thinking about what we ought to be doing, looking out for each other, and being sure that we recognize that this COVID would have not just physical, but psychological effects. Thank you so much, Debbie Ann, for keeping us where we want to be. Mr. Kushan Amarakun. Now, Kush is well known because he is the response from MITS every time we want something done. We wanted to jump online. You ask Kush, where can we go? If you want to get something put out as a seminar or as a conference, Kush and the team from MITS have been extraordinary in terms of us moving through COVID. And we want to hail him up as a champion. Ms. Wright, Natisha Wright, not many people know of her. But I ran across Natisha Wright. In fact, I run across her every day. She comes through the office of the principal, the office of the deputy principal, as well as the Mona Aging and Wellness Center and a couple other offices. And those frequently touched areas, that's her spot. She cleans every one of those 2-3 times a day. In her own way, she has kept us safe and allowed us to be able to continue functioning. When we needed volunteers to go over to Mona Aging and Wellness during the Blitz, she was the first person to volunteer, a champion on the campus. Mr. Craig Hall, Facilities Manager up at the Faculty of Medical Sciences. Well, Craig was one of the earliest ones out of the block, printing all kind of signs that would tell us what we should be doing. Craig was important also in that when medical sciences decided they needed to make sanitizers, who was at the helm? Craig Hall, a champion at the Mona campus. Another unsung hero is Sharika Danvers, who is Assistant Superintendent of Works at the Estate Management Department. And because she has a training in public health and a training in management, she was at the helm of training all our staff as to how they should be cleaning in this new dispensation. She was a part of the team that determined where we should be putting out our various hand sanitizers and what we needed to do to keep us in terms of our bleach, our sanitizers, our cleaning mechanisms, and our cleaning personnel. Unsung hero, thank you so much, Sharika. And finally, I have Tanya Edwards, who is a volunteer at the Mona Aging and Wellness Center, now a staff member at Mona Aging and Wellness. And she, I would say, single-handedly has vaccinated over 50% of that 57,000 you saw. She has been the head, the lead, in terms of actually making the vaccinations happen. So we thank our champions and we look forward to them continuing to work with us. But our staff are not the only champions. We have students who are champions. And I'm looking at the access in terms of our access pillar. We want to look at redefining student success, not just by who got the top grades, who are the best performers, but who are the students who redefine their own success, the student champions. Well, Gabrielle Chin is a champion in redefining her own education. As being visually impaired, she didn't let that get in the way. In fact, she said it was easier and better for her to work with her computer and get the classes she wants done so that the faculty, she could complete her degree in the Faculty of Law and get her first class honors. Darren Thompson, he's also physically challenged in the Faculty of Social Sciences. And even when his limbs started failing him, he said going online meant he didn't have to go into a classroom. He was better able to manage the workload. Again, a champion and student success. Chanel Graham, Faculty of Social Sciences. Well, she was way out in the country and decided connectivity was her biggest problem. Once she got past connectivity, she found that being able to consume when she wanted to, where she wanted to, actually made her a better student. She too was extremely successful in her degree. Mr. Ryan Moore, well, I guess those who get into the Faculty of Medicine are usually extremely brilliant in terms of their academic prowess. But how do they manage and cope? Well, it turns out Mr. Moore is a music mixer and a mixologist, and that takes away the tension and then spreads the joy with others. He's still in course to become a neurosurgeon and wants to be able to look back at the COVID experience as a major learning exercise. Jardine Fraser from the Faculty of Engineering, first class honors, but she tells us that the first class honors came by involvement, came by engagement, came by being involved within her faculty and within the community in which she serves. She too benefited by going online. But I think Sadie Rose's case in Faculty of Sport, where she's doing sport kinetics, is one that really caught my eye because she lost her laptop within the first 2 weeks of COVID, but benefited from borrowing a tablet from the library through the loan system we had and keeping that tablet for the entire time. She was able to take notes, do her exams, and take control of her education. Tricia Montague from Humanities and Education, she went through serious faculty adversity, lost not one but 2 family members, used that as motivation to climb to where she is now and completed her degree. Excellent performance. And the last champion I have there, Danielle Nicol. She's from the Faculty of Science and Technology, doing statistical science. Again, one of those disciplines that you sit and crunch numbers. The mathematics department is very proud of her, but I think the entire faculty is proud of her because she says she learned more in the classroom, learned more out the classroom than in the classroom, and was able to share what she learned with those in the community, being able to spread the information through her knowledge and her web-based approach. Champions in the university always make a difference. Our enrollment was a little down this year. That is for the 2020 to 21 year compared to the 2018-19 year and the 19-20 year. We expected that, and it was a 2 to 3% reduction. That's understandable based on the COVID problems. In fact, all told, our undergrad numbers went down by about 2%, but our graduate numbers actually increased. And that makes a lot of sense because a lot of our graduate students are actually taking courses which are 5 to 7 in the evening. They therefore relished being able to come online. And as we've always thought, in times of adversity, a lot of people try to retool. We found that students wanted to retool. Those who had a first degree wanted a second degree. So most of our graduate programs were actually in the taught programs, although we did increase our our PhDs and our DMs. Our MPhils decreased, and I'm told by our Director of Graduate Studies and Research, that is because we actually transferred students from the MPhil program into the research PhD program. Again, something that puts us on top of the world. Our enrollment, as usual, is about 25% part-time, 75% full-time. And our students by age, about half our students are between 20 and 25 years old. 10% under 20 and 10% between 35 and 50. And the bulk are students who are here at a time in their lives when they are looking for the changes and we need to manage those changes. Our enrollment with students with disabilities went up by about 5%, while our living in hall students, our residents, who are about 20% of the total student population, that went down by about 70% based on the COVID pandemic. However, we are working through our new dispensation to try and get that number back up, and I will close my slides and tell you why later on. In terms of graduation, we've graduated more students in this 2020 to 21 COVID year than ever before. And that we found a little surprising, but pleasing, in that students did not allow COVID to get in the way of their performance and their completion. Many who were wondering, can I make this, can I get to the end, took the opportunity and made the push, and all faculties saw an increase in graduation. First degrees had a marked increase in graduation, while higher degrees had a smaller increase, but an increase nonetheless. And we found that there was a shift. First class honors and upper second class honors had a greater proportion in those that were graduating compared with 2020 year. And the lower second class honors and past degrees, fewer students, so a smaller proportion graduated with those. So not only were more students graduating, but they were making that push and making the extra effort to graduate with a better class of degree. The number of graduates in our higher degree program continues to please us in terms of the numbers we're working at. We've always had a goal of trying to get to 1,000 in terms of the number of graduates. Well, we exceeded that, again, primarily due to the taught master's program, but we're very pleased that we're making that. Why am I stressing this? Because the University of the West Indies, we consider our niche separator, what makes us different from the other 70 institutions operating in our tertiary space around the Caribbean, is graduate studies and research. So we are very keen to see more students in our graduate profile. So all told, 30% of our students are male, 70% female. That's actually about the same as last year. 4,000 graduates in the 2021 year, which is up, as I said, from the previous year. And they are all engaged in the 120 clubs, societies, and activities that we maintain. Even through COVID, we were able to maintain all these clubs and activities, many of them online since the students weren't physically here. Let's move on to redefining teaching, learning, and our student development. And while I share there are the students from the Faculty of Engineering who benefited from the internship program offered by New Fortress, where they were out there for the summer actually learning how to handle the natural gases and how to handle the engineering systems, some of which we have on campus now. We brought on board 10 new courses or programs which were delivered starting August 2020. That's in the COVID cycle. I think that's an important thing in that we adapted what we were doing to ensure that we were getting to the right mindset. MSc in Engineering and Management, the postgraduate diploma in Geriatric Medicine. So we picked a couple of key areas and rolled out programs starting in the midst of COVID. We also had another 11 programs designed throughout the year, which started in this year that we're now in 2021, but they were developed through the COVID period to make the difference as we now go forward. Biomedical radiation science and the Diploma in Clinical Medical Physics. Some of the examples of programs that we're bringing online. We also had to change some of how we did our assessments. For instance, the Stage 1 MBBS, for the first time, because it is now across all campuses, changed its assessment so there's a 30% in course and a 70% final exam, which made a lot of difference to the students, made also a lot of difference in how it was examined. We also found out we could contribute, for instance, in the virtual clinical exam, the CAMC, which allows students to determine where they can be placed in terms of those who are completed. Well, we did a virtual administration in September and in March and May, which is a change in the examination or the assessment method. Very proud of the Faculty of Humanities and Education, where 75% of their courses went to 100% coursework, which meant we didn't have to find examination and proctoring solutions for those students and for a lot of happening in that faculty. And we introduced a graduate GPA system for the first time, which means that going forward, those students who are completing especially our taught programs, will have easy comparisons and transfer from one system to another. Our library resources were extremely pivotal in our teaching, where we had a number of resources that were made available. The MILU, the training on information literacy, a number of students took advantage of this, and a number of staff members actually participated as well. We got very creative and had online delivery of labs where students were unable to come in. In fact, I even saw a video transect through a forest where students were able to do a forest ecology as if they were actually in the forest. But again, the one that got our eye was this BodyViz software, which allows students to virtually dissect and peel away layers as if they were in a real anatomy lab. That was a game changer for many students who could not get into the space to do the actual dissections. And again, partnerships made the difference where, for instance, Karamak partnered with YEDA to get a number of created cloud software so that they could do the animation degree and do it online. Our students' development was paramount, and we found that by being able to do our virtual support to students, we're able to reach them in many places. The Faculty of Social Sciences was very creative, decided they would make a mascot. And this tiger kept turning up all over the place, coming up with features like rolling with it and mind your mind. I'm reliably informed that the tiger was also vaccinated, so I think we're safe. The enhanced systems within our process, for instance, using the curriculum advising program and the comprehensive academic advising program, which are being piloted in the Faculty of Social Sciences. Once we clear that, it means that we will have an electronic database method which allows students to follow their academic progress and will not have to find a counselor every day or every time they want to determine where they are. We've looked at ethics clearance and methods in terms of guidelines from the Faculty of Humanities and Education. And we're very pleased that the Office for Graduate Studies and Research, through our Director of Graduate Studies and Research, was able to get automation of the graduate process. You'll recall in my first couple of slides, I said we were 90% on our graduate processes. Well, one of the key factors was to get graduate studies completely automated so that we would stop moving paper around, part of our digital transformation. Of course, we had a lot of mentorships. The ones I'll mention, of course, are Goldman Sachs, which takes students from computing, Huawei, which took students from the Faculty of Science and Technology in general, CMEX, which took engineering students and actually taught them how to do some of what happened out there at Caribbean Cement. A number of opportunities created, and we took advantage of them. We also wanted to redefine possibilities in terms of research, and we were able to bring to the campus a Met Station, which, although it is on the campus, puts information to the cloud, and all our partners can download information, and we can download their information. And then Minister Pernell Charles is there with us opening that Met Station on campus. The research seminars were a key part of making research and scholarship continue to fly. They were primarily in education and graduate studies, and as expected, a lot were around health and wellness and COVID. But the wide cross-section of research demonstrates that we are a research institution, which is what we pride ourselves on. Over 70 research seminars were held, and 63 publications were had with graduate students as co-presenters. Particularly pleased with the faculty, well, generally with the library, And the library, in working in combination with the Office for Graduate Studies and Research, put on a new innovation called the 3-minute thesis, where you've seen our theses. They're 200, 300, 400 pages. Can you get that down to 3 minutes? Well, they did. Jordan Freeman was the winner, a PhD student in science and technology, and he took home that trophy there for getting his thesis down to 3 minutes. Kemal Latimer there was runner-up from the Faculty of Medical Sciences. But Andre Bernard got the People's Choice Award, and if you know Andre, you'll understand why. He captures your imagination every time he speaks or sings. Impactful research makes a difference. We found that Nadine McLeod from the Department of Econ, working on the economic panel research on the socioeconomic issues affecting Jamaica, impactful research throughout COVID. Department of Life Sciences, led by Dr. Dwight Robinson, conducted an ecological assessment of the Yalas and Hope River watersheds, impactful research. Professor Mona Weber working with the Queen Conch at Pedro Bank, and I bet you all didn't know that Jamaica has the largest conch portfolio in the world, more conch than anywhere else, but we need to manage it, so you need to know what's there. Dr. Enrica Kenvey, looking at the DNA of pre-Columbus human skeletal remains as a part of our history. Dr. Mansingh, Akshay Mansingh, our Dean of Sports, has been working on how to get the needs of coaches into the curriculum so that we can advise and make an impact. Hopefully, Dr. Mansingh, you're going to get them to work on the cricket, but we'll come back to that. Dr. Jeffrey Barrow, with the Health Connect program funded by USAID, funded through a USAID project for HIV improvement, and I'll mention that a little later on as well. Dr. Karen Carpenter, who's been working on the Excess Valley project, funded through the Mona School of Business and Management, and Dr. Devon Smith and Omar Thomas. Devon, of course, is from estate management. Omar Thomas from engineering, have been working on e-mobility, and very soon we'll see electronic vehicles around campus as a pilot to demonstrate to the rest of Jamaica that electronic vehicles are the way forward. A lot of impactful research because of a lot of impactful partners, and you can see a range of them there. The library was a star for us. The library cataloged and loaned over 1,000 tablets and laptops for students who had no devices. The library made available over 6,000 consultations and over 22,000 digitized pages so that students and staff could stay from wherever they were and be able to connect. The library allowed over 200,000 visits, whether physically or hits to their site, to which they responded, and they assigned librarians to be able to make those responses meaningful and in a matter of a very short time. The library is at the heart of all academic institutions, and our library was extremely impactful to us. They helped us with our faculty board and our representations, specialized student sessions, and our research collaborations throughout the COVID period. Publications, which is what we're looking at as one of our key factors, actually went up in a couple of faculties. Commendations to the medical faculty, which improved its publications almost 30% during a COVID year. Science and technology also increased. Humanities and social sciences, small decreases, but we know the feature there is that those faculties do a lot of book publications, which take a little longer to come to fruition, so we'll look out for those numbers in the next year. We're looking forward to continued work with our colleagues as we've offered grant writing opportunity discussions, ethics discussions, grant proposal writing. We've looked at a range of symposia to foster the importance of social science research, of science and technology research, of humanities research, of engineering research. And the Faculty of Law put out an anniversary book that is now almost ready for delivery. It is being discussed and being prepared as a culmination of some of what they have done. We also redefined our communication. We had as a goal that we were trying to get 10% of our courses online per year before COVID. Well, COVID made us put the entire thing online. 1,848 courses in semester 1 and 1,852 in semester 2. We had 101 virtual events. And this ranged from carol services all the way through to seminars about COVID. In fact, our very first seminar on COVID from the Faculty of Medical Sciences had almost 9,000 persons logged on. There's no other event on campus that has ever had that kind of attendance, but people were there and people were watching. We've had almost 1,000 staff trained in online teaching, and we continue to train. We've improved our workflow process because you'll find that once you try to go to the digital transformation, if you don't have the right framework, it doesn't work. We've had to increase our protocols for online exams. We've had to set up that digital library we spoke of, and 97% of our lectures have been live streamed. We've had impact all across Jamaica. If you look at the numbers, we've almost doubled the hits on our website in terms of both our website and our VLE platform, moving from 4 million almost to 7 million, to over 7 million. But we also recognize that our site was being hit by all over. Trinidad and Tobago, USA, Barbados, Bahamas, Antigua, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Kitts. Material from the UWI Mona campus was being consumed across the entire Caribbean, I say across the entire world. Clearly, COVID does have some upsides, and we need to be able to take advantage of that. If you look at the profile, that little orange line is the users in 2019 to 20. The blue line, users in 2020 to 2021. 66% increase in session use. 16% increase in number of users. 81% in page, in terms of the paginations that are taken, and 8% for the pages. 17% average session duration, and wonderfully less, a reduction of 16% in terms of bounce, which is that you don't stay on, you end up falling off the program. For this, we have to say a big, big thank you to MITS. They have been responsive, they have been proactive. You just have to ask, and even when you don't ask, they come back with some suggestions and solutions that make it better in terms of how we have delivered who we are. Communication, therefore, a key part of making us work, and we've done our online delivery using our Zoom, our VLE, our Blackboard Collaborate platforms. Our faculties all had some chat rooms and some conversation possibilities so that we could respond and get quick resolution to issues. And we had over 7,000 inquiries presented. Our traditional means were continued, and communication for us is a key. Communication using our virtual events, workshops, seminars. Orientation was completely virtual. Our planning and our execution of special days. For instance, this is Quality Day, and Deputy Principal led on his team led on how we use quality and how we were able to maintain quality throughout COVID. Our student satisfaction survey tells us that while students are happy with some of the things that we're doing, and we take pride in this, we have some work to do. 70% of our programs are relevant, 74% gave them the skills they wanted, 88% satisfaction with instruction, and 60% with the IT and library services and adequate access. However, admin processes and health services, 31%. Safety and security, 28% satisfied. Feeling of attachment to the UWI, 41% satisfaction. Virtual learning, 31%, and conduct of labs, 37%. Those are all areas we need to do work on. And of course, there's an overall reduction in the student engagement in terms of the satisfaction rate. So we actually have started redoubling our efforts in terms of the student satisfaction survey. In terms of alignment, well, our partnerships make a lot of things work for us. And you'll see we've done partnerships, for instance, with the Ministry of Health and Wellness. That was the signing of the Health Connect project, which had both Dr. Barrow and Junior Minister Cuthbert Flynn here in the council room signing off on that. And Boost, which the chairman mentioned, which is a program from Faculty of Science and Technology with Faculty of Humanities, where a new way of working out a scholarship not while you're here, a scholarship when you leave, allows us to have those in science teach in science when they leave here. Our outreach areas cover a wide cross-section, and we've just picked a couple here that we've been very strong on for the year. HIV, health services, occupational health and safety, education and health are always there, law and justice, green engineering, just to name a few. In terms of the advocacy, you can pick, and everywhere you go, you'll find an example. The IGDS was a part of the Joint Select Committee in Parliament, and 4 laws, Domestic Violence Act, Sexual Harassment Act, Sexual Offences Against a Person Act, and Child Care and Protection Act were all influenced by work from the UWI. We had involvement with those from Augustown, where we had 8 leaders from Augustown participate in a program, not just for gender, but it was also a climate change and a micro-enterprise where they were going to earn some money from it. Funded from USAID allowed us to look at hosting the annual Caribbean Child Research Conference. And we also had the hosting of the sixth annual weekend symposium on law and governance and society. And Mona Social Services and the Caribbean, the film project engaged 75 women to try and get them the tools they want to reduce gender-based violence. Social Sciences continued partnership with the universities in Netherlands to discuss social work, Faculty of Law with the Joint Select Committees, the partnership with UWI and the Ministry of Health in terms of that HIV product. 42 clinicians are now a part of that program. They're in 6 different locations, 31 locations in 6 different labs that allow us to cover. Our UEDF partners allowed us to increase what we were doing in the intensive care units by providing a fiber optic bronchoscope, which allowed up to 100 patients on a monthly basis to get additional care. The Boost project I've already mentioned, and there's Green Engineering project. I think we can clearly see that outreach for the University of West Indies Mona campus has made a major difference, both in our teaching and our research, and now in our outreach. Outreach partners, again, number tremendously, and I think we can take pride in being able to work with partners from around the world. We sign MOUs almost every other week, and in fact, 27 over a year is every other week. We have 27 that we've signed over this year, which allow us to leverage what we know and what we do in the best possible way. In terms of agility, well, redefining our financial health must be a big part of redefining our opportunities. The government of Jamaica, the contribution from the government of Jamaica declined by 9% in the 2021 year. This is because we really had a one-off the year before, which helped us tremendously, but going back to normal, there's a small decline. However, with that decline, the overall revenue was down by 1.2 billion, which is about 6%. So we were operating on a smaller pool. The government of Jamaica, however, is still responsible for almost 90% of the contributions to the Mona campus. That said, the contribution from tuition fees, which is that purple block, declined, and contribution from donor income, which is the yellow block, that also declined. Other projects, however, which is the green block, that increased, and that is how we managed to stay alive. The contribution from the government, in terms of the total pie, 39% of our revenue, our income is from the government of Jamaica, and 14% from our fees. If you add those two, it means just over 50% comes from those two combinations. It means we have to find a way to make the 40-odd, almost 50%. Our full fee paying programs, our research projects and projects in general, and other features that we have, our commercial operations around campus, those are the initiatives that we embrace to try and make the difference. How do we spend it? Most of it is spent in the departments, 36% spent in departments, and 28% on projects, 10% on capital expenditure, and 13% on administration. And then there's a 13% on the pension, finance, etc. But if you ask, where does it actually go? Almost 64% goes into salaries, into staff benefits. And if you add to that the pension and post-employment, which is at 5%, that block over to the left-hand side, almost 70% of what we do in terms of our expenses goes into staff, which means we need to take that resource, which is our human resource, and make it work in the best possible way for us. We need to manage it, and we need to use all we have in terms of managing the systems that give us the return on our input. I'm very pleased, however, and I suppose I will spend a year on this slide if I could. Chairman, for the first time in 6 years, the Mona campus, looking at the green bar, which is our total income, looking at that peachish bar, which is our OPEX, our operational expense, we calculate the comprehensive income, our loss, and from 2016, there's been a little slither of red, 2017, a little more red, so that's a little higher loss, 2018, a little more loss, 2019, our largest loss, $3.2 billion. Well, through all that we've done, and I think everybody at the Mona campus should take credit for it because we've tightened our belts, we have changed our spending patterns, we have not done some of the things we've always done. We've been able to carve back. So in 2019 to 20, we got that down to $1 billion in terms of debt. And that little blue bar there, Chairman, is our slither of hope. That is, for me, turning the corner. For the first time in 6 years, the Mona campus has a positive surplus in terms of comprehensive income. It's very small. It's very small, but it's there. And if you can imagine a giant Titanic is not a good word, a giant vessel which is going to turn, it is going to take a long time to turn. I think this is the beginning of the turn, and we're very pleased. Thank you all to the Mona campus, because I know it's been difficult, and I know I've been very hard on you. Our Office of Student Financing, through its regular partners, have been able to continue giving scholarships. In fact, we had $4.5 million worth of scholarships in new scholarships to students. And I say that against a background that we only gave $550 million worth of scholarships and bursaries this year. That's down from $1 billion the year before. If we don't have the money, we cannot give the scholarships. But finding new partners out there, 84 new partners were found in terms of new bursaries and partners. So we didn't lose scholarships to students, just that we were not paying for the scholarships anymore. The Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, they brought on a $14.4 million grant for scholarships. And UIDEF, who the chairman mentioned, has been instrumental in finding scholarships from all over and bringing them to us. Here is one from the Victoria Mutual Investments Limited, where the UIDEF scholar, Mr. Brown, receives his scholarship of $500,000. We also gain money from our partners, for instance, the annual CB 5K and Smart Eggs. Now, this year we had a virtual run. If you can think about running virtual, it means you can do it in your living room, or you can run around the ring road, you can run at home, you can run anytime. You just need to be able to log it. Well, this group, we were able, through our partnerships, to get $10 million. This year, the Open Campus and Five Islands were also involved, and that $10 million allowed us to give more scholarships. Sponsors have always been the CB Group, NCB, Proven, RJR Communications Group, the Gleaner Company, CIBC. They are all on board and continue to be on board so that we can make a difference. Our flagship right there is not that Pelican, Chairman. It is really Miss Kitty. And as a proud graduate with a first-class honors from a couple of years ago, she continues to lead us in terms of the 5K and Smart Eggs. Also contributing, the JLP Education Fund and the Prime Minister's Positive Jamaica Foundation made a $2.5 million donation, and there is Daniel. I was just holding up the bottom of the check. There's Daniel really collecting the check because it went to students, and it went to final year students. Registrar and his team, also there with the Prime Minister, arranged for final year students who were in their final semester, who needed just a few thousand to get over the finish line. They were the beneficiary. 102 students benefited, and I think they are all thankful for this intervention. But how did we make some of those strides to get that little blue bar for the positive input? Well, office mergers we've been talking about. Throughout the year 2020 to 21, we carried out a fair amount of office mergers, especially in the registry and in the deputy principal's office, to save $8.3 million. It seems like a little, but Chairman, as we add them up, you'll see the difference. Our vacancy monitoring committee, which brought in a new thought. Do you need to fill a vacancy? Do you need to fill it now? Do you need to fill it at this level? Do you need to fill it for the whole year? That saved us $258 million for that academic year, a major clawback. Bookshop sales gave us $85 million. That's actually down 60% from previous year, but then it's hard to turn around the material if you don't have the stock in hand. Bookshop also did some restructuring by closing the Mona Western Jamaica campus branch, and those savings brought us $25 million all told. And Faculty of Social Sciences, I will say thank you very much to the Dean. They tightened their belt and allowed us not to fill a couple of positions, which gave us a $9.3 million savings. We have to take it wherever we can. Closing the College of Bahamas, closing the Center for Hospitality and Tourism Management in the Bahamas allowed us an $86.7 million savings, and the library with its grants and efforts and being able to bring in subscriptions at a lower value saved us $3.3 million. The projects, the PPP projects, which are always ways that we try and claw back on some of the expenditure. Well, I'm pleased to say, Chairman, that for the year 2020 to 21, the cogen plant, with all the hard work from the PPP unit, from Monatech Engineering, saved us $82 million for that year. For this year, in fact, I'm perhaps stealing the thunder of next year's report, but in December of 2021, outside of the reporting period, but important, Chairman, we finally made it a cogen plant in that the heat from the generators are now finally going into the chillers so that we're no longer buying fuel to run the chillers. And that's for the 2 months so far from December, so measuring December and January, it's been $5 million additionally saved in not purchasing. So our cogen is really a cogen and finally working. And it still offers alignment and training for our engineering students. The well project is going extremely well, no pun intended, and it saved us $750 million in that 2020 to 21 year. It is a good way to demonstrate how we have been able to use the resources that we have between engineering, geology, science and technology, and our PPP unit to try and harness what is there, and it gives us hope for the future. Our third PPP, I'm sorry I have no blue sign to put there. There are no financial gains in the 138 student living. However, we have had major improvements in our discussions. We are at a point where, thanks to our deputy principal, who is our master negotiator, we're actually at the table with 138 student living regularly, talking about how we can redesign some of these concession agreements so that in the future, we will get a better performance and we will see a return. Our researchers still bring in a lot of money, $426 million this year, compared with $495 last year and $232 the year before. And where all our faculties do contribute projects which have research components, which actually get the research done, but also there's a 15% which comes back into the campus in terms of our administrative costs. So I'd like to thank all our researchers who continue to write projects. And the other area that we tend to try and find clawback funds is in our projects that have become spin-off companies. So we're redefining our opportunities with all our companies. Well, the companies that we have fall into different categories, Chairman. And the first is companies which are making a loss. Universal Media Company Limited, right now the coverage has reduced. It's available streaming online, but not in the coverage that used to be there. There's a recommendation for it to be subsumed under Carimac, which does media as what it teaches, and to wide up the company. So we are working on that recommendation. Mona Technology Park, which was a combination of the call center with two other entities. Well, as you can see, the Sutherland Group, BPO, they left the operation. We since then had a small ITEL BPO in place. They too have ended their arrangements. So we now are using it as an examination center until we find the right BPO partners. That takes it out of company realm, and we therefore are thinking to wind up the company. MEC and RF, which are the two other components, are to be relocated to other parts of the campus in terms of their operation. MEC, of course, is the Mona Entrepreneurship and Commercialization Center, which is an important part of the campus, and RF is the Agricultural Research Innovation Facility, which we call the cassava plant, which was really a training ground, really a proof of concept that we could make cassava flour, which we've done very successfully. Our second companies are those which are restructured, and we have two that we've done restructuring. So the Mona Social Services has been restructured and merged with the Community Film Project, thanks to the Deputy Principal. They actually have brought in grants and are funding a lot of what they do themselves, and expanded the Township Project to be able to give additional scholarships and train additional persons, so making a difference. Existing partnerships with Grace Kennedy Foundation, European Union, and Rise Life Management help them to continue to be functional, so the restructuring seems to have worked. The other restructured company is what we knew as the Visitors Lodge. It really was not a company. We've formed a company now called the Mona Inn and Conference Center. The facility has been closed, as you know. We did use it during the pandemic to help the hospital with some of their staff who needed isolation when we just started COVID. But we're now trying to attract private investors to the entity, and while we know there are only a few rooms, the blue and gold rooms, which are prioritized for renovation, are constantly being in demand, and we hope to be able to, in this restructure, make a difference and put it back on the market. Companies to be restructured or sold, there are three here. The Mona Health Services really needs some restructuring. This is the company which is responsible for the contract with the AIS for the HIMS system, which is at the hospital. But we've started negotiations as to how we can transfer that contract and get out of the situation that's there. We think we might need to wind up this company and start a new thought. The MIMS, microbiology and pathology labs, are still very viable, but not in the current structure that's there. So we will need to develop a management plan. The Mona Institute of Applied Sciences, well, the dean tells me that he has a recommendation to consolidate this into one faculty of science, analytical, and research entity. I await the proposal so that we can make this happen, because this is an entity that has not been fulfilling all that it would like to. So that's going to be restructured. And Monotech Engineering, we actually have F&GPC approval to sell our 60% shares in Monotech Engineering. And we are far down the wicket in terms of a partner to take this organization. The two that are positive financial returns, and I've saved the best for last, are Mona J Informatics, which had a gross revenue in 2021-22 of 122 million. And this is, I've already mentioned some of the excellent work that's done by Mona J Informatics. They continue to do the work, and we continue to see a rebound. They were actually in debt. If you remember last year, Chairman, I had them in one of those categories of loss companies. They have turned around, and in 2 years, they're actually back in profit margin. By far, our largest profit margin, of course, comes from the Mona School of Business and Management. If they could manage their business, I don't know who could, but they've gotten a lot of new projects. They have expanded their consulting arm, and they've enlisted virtual space in terms of outreach and engagement with public and private sector. They made a gross revenue of almost $1 billion, net of about 200 million, which makes a major difference to our bottom line. In terms of our caring, accountable, motivated professional staff, well, we continue training workshops and working with our health professionals in terms of getting the best for our staff that we can. We know that not being in the space makes it difficult for us to engage, but our virtual events and our opportunities to teach and learn have made a difference. Having new committees, such as the senior administrative officers across all faculties, where our senior admin staff are now linked to each other, seems to be paying dividends, and I'd like to thank them for pooling together their thoughts. Re-implementing our Staff Matters Committee so that all levels of staff receive the same level of scrutiny. That allows us to look at our staff in a more caring, accountable, motivated, professional way. We did continue with our long service awards. 81 staff got 15 years, 48 staff got 21 years, 31 of our staff got 30 years, and 2 of our staff members got 40-year awards, and I was especially pleased. Personal punch here. The 2 gentlemen at the top are for me, very special. Winston Smith from the chemistry department. When I was a graduate student, Chairman, and I couldn't find glacial acetic acid, it was Winston from chemistry who helped me, and that's how my PhD started. And my first job here at the university in, can't tell you when, was being student service manager for Taylor Hall, and it was right after Hurricane Gilbert. And Ashley Clark, who is the other man there, 40 years of service. Well, just after Hurricane Gilbert, he was in stores, and he provided Taylor Hall with all we needed to try and get through those difficult times. 162 members received their long service awards, and we're very pleased. Registrar, thank you for being able to organize, even through COVID, that we recognize our service. We have a couple of new appointments and new achievements. Professor Sylvia Cohenberg is the new Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Education. She, of course, replaced Professor Wari Boko, who retired. We have a new appointment of Mr. Jonathan Archie as our Deputy Registrar. That's a new position, because we've never had a Deputy Registrar before. But I think our previous registrars have complained bitterly, and I think this registrar put his foot down as he came to say he needed a deputy. Professor Minerva Thame replaced Dr. Tomlin Paul, who served as Dean of Medical Sciences. Tomlin actually is gone to Rwanda now. Talked to us the other day, seems to be having a ball. Dr. Blossom Anglin Brown retired, and after a long search, we were able to track down Dr. Tina Hilton Kong as clinical director for our health center. Dr. Livingston White is our new public orator, replacing Dr. Michael Buckner. Professor Marcia Roy is the new Director for Graduate Studies and Research, replacing Professor Thame, where she was before. Dr. Devon Smith is not acting, but now our new estate manager, replacing Kathleen Sambo. And Dr. Marina Ramkisoon is our new Director of Human Resources, replacing Dr. Hines. Promotion to professors, we were very pleased. In fact, this year I think the Mona campus, this is 2020 to 21, outdid itself. We had 12 colleagues promoted to professor. Professor Asnani from CARE, Professor Oshie from Medical Sciences, Professor Kathleen Monteith from Humanities, and Bill Aiken from Medical Sciences. Chairman, I'll draw to your attention as you go through the slides that more than 50% of our professors are female. Professor Trevor Ferguson from CARE as well, Professor Audrey Pottinger from Medical Sciences, Professor Charles Grant from iSense, Professor Trotman Edwards from Medical Sciences, Professor Maxine Gossel-Williams from Medical Sciences, Professor Nchoka from Medical Sciences, Professor Tanisha Stevenson from Science and Technology, and Professor Gillian Woff from Medical Sciences. We congratulate all our professors and look forward to their continued contribution. As we do from those who have left but have been granted Professor Emeritus, Ishan Mukawa from Chemistry, Helen Jacobs from Chemistry, and Evan Duggan from Social Sciences. They were all granted Professor Emeritus status over the years. In terms of other special award recipients, Professor Aldrin Henry Lee, the Virtual Hall Honor for the 100 St. Lucian Women. Professor Mona Weber got the Gold Musgrave Medal from the Institute of Jamaica. Professor Newton Duncan elected to membership of the Academy of Master Surgeon Educators. And Dr. Floyd Morris and Professor Rupita Delgado were part of the 2021 Anthony N. Sagba Caribbean Awards for Excellence. National honors, although he doesn't work for us, you think he does. Clifton Grant is always here. Clifton is actually Vice President of the UAW, and he got Order of Distinction in the rank of officer, so we claim him. And Professor Renford Wilkes, recipient of the Order of Distinction in the rank of commander. Of course, Renford was in medical sciences for a long time, and you'd still think he's here as well. Vice Chancellor's Award for Excellence, well, I think we claim this as ours, because this year we got 5 of the 8 awards, well, in the year in question, 2020-21. Craig Hall, the Office of Medical Sciences, the Dean had put forward the office, and that office got the award in terms of the departmental award for innovation and for the work of the departmental excellence. Dr. Heather Ricketts, Faculty of Social Sciences, currently our Deputy Dean there, for service to the university community. Mr. Compton Beecher, who runs one of our entities, the Carigen Caritox facility from Medical Sciences, excellence in service to the university. Professor Tanisha Stevenson for excellence in research, and Dr. Penegoda from Science and Technology for excellence in teaching. We had our honorary graduates at graduation. We were able to have a few face-to-face, but His Excellency Rodney Williams from Antigua and Barbuda was online. Hilary Sherlock in her work for work on disabilities, and Robert Levy for entrepreneurship, as well as Glenn Christian for entrepreneurship, and Albert Reese from the US for medical sciences. Finally, in staff satisfaction surveys, well, I've just grouped these to say over 50% we are willing to accept. So we have a 70% in terms of our staff agreeing to working in a safe environment, working as a team, being treated fairly, etc. 69% in terms of feeling more engaged at work. The other challenges that we have, however, we fell below 50% in resource provision, leadership management style, pay and benefits, opportunities for promotion, and fair distribution of work. So we have work to do, colleagues, as we plan to improve this. There's an overall 3% reduction in the engagement, which we are really working hard to try and get that engagement up in this upcoming year. 2 big highlights I want to put out there: the Mona School of Business and Management, the recipient of the global rankings for 2021 in the Eduversal ranking, best master's MBA program in 50 fields. That's a real accolade that they should be bragging about. And the Faculty of Medical Sciences made history by being the first in Latin America and the Caribbean to receive the Aspire Award for Excellence in Social Accountability. Chairman, I couldn't close without making a mention about our Mona campus achievements of those who got to the Olympics and then medaled. As you know, Shelley Ann Fraser Price is an honorary graduate of the university, and got her gold in the 4x1. Hansa Parchment, who live, born, grow, train here, 110-meter hurdles, gold. Very proud of him. Renisha McGregor and Candice McLeod were part of the bronze medal team for the 4x4. And I hear Taylor Hall asking me to give them the shout out that they deserve. The Mona Campus achievement, well, at the end of the year, the 2021 year, Chairman, the Times Higher Education ranking has us as #1 in the Caribbean. We expected that. #2 in terms of universities in top 2% universities in Latin America and the Caribbean region, and top 4% in the world. We also were ranked in the top 1% of golden age universities between 50 and 80 years. So we have a lot to brag about. We are focused on improving, and in fact, we now have the rankings for the following year, which will come in next year's report, where we moved instead of the top 2%, instead of top 4% in the world, we're now the top 1.5%, but we'll report on that next year. So what's the way forward? Well, the revenue revolution is the way forward. The campus needs to continue looking at inefficiencies and consolidation of costs. And I want to make special mention here of our bursar, who is leading us in this, removing the inefficiencies and working on the consolidations. You would not believe how often she reminds me of what I need to do and how often I need to make it happen. But thank you, bursar, for your continued efforts. The commercial activities, an important part. We've shown that that is now a major part of funding the campus. We will need to harness more of those commercial activities. We need digital transformation and to look at the shared service model across the UWI to make this revenue revolution work for us. We need to increase our teaching programs, especially those that can be at a full fee paying program, so that we can capture using what we do best. We need corporate consolidation of our commercial activities, and we need to look at that College Common residential development. The two maps I have there are the campus from the master plan on the left, and on the right, the sectors as we have planned them. Each different color there is a possible sector that we can try and find investment once we have had the lands donated to the UWI so that the Mona campus can benefit from it. So, teaching, learning, and student development, staff engagement and support, digital transformation, and financial health are all being held as our goals, and they're all leaning on each other. In the way forward, we think having done as well as we've done over this year, the following year, we should be able to look at a 70 to 90% face-to-face engagement coming in September. We want to look at a HR revolution so that we can better serve our populace in terms of our staff. We intend to have digital transformation as a major part of what the campus does, not just for academic, but for administrative functions. And the financial health through the revenue revolution will allow us to be financially stable so that everything will be standing straight and the Mona campus will continue to prosper. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Principal. I must say I commend the university community. But I would say as well too that we need to focus on that reduction in the number of students that we're registering. That's what we're here to do. And we have to ensure that we find ways and means to keep that number increasing. And we have to also be mindful of the fact that we're now in a world where virtual learning is common, and our competition not just emanates from Jamaica, but internationally via online modalities as well too. I would like to also mention that your achievements this year that you have mentioned are noteworthy, and the university ranking will certainly put us in a place where we can really attract students internationally via the online portals. But I must also remember those on whose shoulders we stand today. And we have the obituary in front of us here. Mrs. Greta Bogues, Ms. Cheryl Brown, Ms. Hermine York, Professor Edwin Jones, Dr. Madge Greenfield, Mrs. Cecile Ruddock Small, Mr. Trevor Ramicki, Dr. Joseph B. Powell, Mr. Meltonian Blake, Professor Emeritus Kenneth Magnus, Mr. Roy Bailey, Mr. Krishna Dionir, Dr. Ronald Bourne, Dr. Jeremy Woodley, Dr. Cyril Fletcher, and most recently, Mrs. Lakni Mansingh, mother of our Dr. Ashka here, who passed away recently. For them and their families, we extend our deepest condolences and recognize their important contribution to the development of our university. So with that said, we now have our Vice Chancellor who is online, who will make his remarks now. Professor Beckles. Professor Sir, the Honorable Sir Hilary Beckles.
Thank you so very much. The Honorable Earl Jarrett, Honorable Minister and other officials of government, all of my distinguished colleagues on the Mona campus, distinguished members of council, a very good morning, everyone. Mr. Chairman, you would agree, I'm sure, that once again, we were exposed to an excellent report by the campus principal, reflecting not only the way in which the challenges facing the campus have been met, but the innovations and the strategies that have emerged from the management team, the principal's leadership to confront those challenges. This is precisely what we have always expected from our principals, that they would recognize the environment and they would respond proactively in order to enable the campus to move from strength to strength year by year. This is a very comprehensive and forward-looking review of prior year. And Principal, I thank you for your leadership and especially for the intimacy with which you have proceeded to engage the host government, the government of Jamaica, that is certainly committed to keeping the lights on in the country in a very, very difficult situation. We do not underestimate the nature of that challenge. This is a difficult time. Yes, I am an economic historian, and I'm particularly seized by the challenges facing the Caribbean world at this time. Very adverse circumstances indeed. We have been able to transcend this COVID-19 because of the intimacy and the clarity of our thinking and relationship building. This war in the Ukraine is going to drive us further into negative circumstances because we can see already the impact on energy prices. We can see looming large the impact on wheat prices, corn, the elements of Caribbean nutrition and the inflation that will result impacting the cost of living and so on. So yes, we are once again confronting that vulnerability of being a small island post-colonial developing states in this region. And Principal, you and your colleagues have read the reality very effectively, efficiently, and your strategies and your policies are emerging out of that detailed reading. So congratulations to you and your team for doing a very good job for this university and for this campus in the prior year. Colleagues, you would have heard that Friday gone, the 4th of March, the University Council finally ruled on the Chancellor's report on governance. And the majority of those recommendations have been accepted, largely because many of those recommendations were already within the purview of our strategic plan. So it was an honor to engage them and to and to work to bring a greater sense of urgency. And I suspect this was the principal strength of the report, to call attention to urgency within the pursuit of implementing strategies. There was, however, Council did not agree to the process of abolishing the Campus and University Finance and General Purposes Committee, which have been described inter alia as the parliament of the university. This is where all of our stakeholders meet to thrash out management issues chaired by the principal. So the principal can now settle down with a greater sense of comfort in knowing that that FNGPC and related institutions will now be secured, and the expectation is that it will become an even more important part going forward of campus strategy. So there's clarity. And that clarity finally, I think, will enable principals to surround themselves with all of their stakeholders, our students, our alumni, our management, our government representatives, private sector leaders, representatives of civil society, to garner all of that now into an energy force for even further transformation. The principal has quite correctly focused on the number one issue of our time, the number one issue embedded within our strategic plan, the number one issue facing the future of our campuses and our university. It is, how do we monetize the reputation which we have so skillfully pursued? We were always clear that the transformation and sustainability of our university required a step-by-step process. First, we build the reputation of this institution. We re-energize our faculties in terms of the impact of their business, teaching, learning, research, publishing. We globalize the reputation of the institution, that while we are rooted in the Caribbean, supportive of Caribbean development, we are a global institution that participates in that network of universities globally. And it's a good thing we have done that, because in today's higher education ecosystem, no university is an island. You are not going to get substantial grants for research. You're not going to make much headway on any strategic issue unless you realize that partnering with like-minded fine institutions is the way. Most international donors and research supporters will say, any major project coming for funding must be a multi-university project. This is now how the world is functioning. So UWI now has at its disposal all of the best universities in the world, because we have enhanced and launched our reputation revolution. And so Mona and all of the other campuses are now in a position to enter partnership negotiations with the best universities in the world in order to do so. And Mona has already led the way in this relationship with the State University of New York to advance a global virology strategy, which is so skillfully led by Professor John Lindo and his colleagues at SUNY. So that is just one example. So the revenue revolution, this is where we are now. This is where we have reached the 74th year of our university, that the top priority for our campuses and for our university is to roll out and implement strategies to launch a revenue revolution. Now, we have spent the last 5 years rolling the wicket, and the wicket is magnificently rolled. So now, principal, all of us, we must now get out there and score lots of runs. lots of runs. This is what this is all about right now, our strategic plan. We have finally arrived at that moment where the top priority is the financial health of our institution based on some fundamental assumptions that our states in the Caribbean, our governments are going to continue to struggle, as I said, to keep the lights on. It's very, very difficult. So it places tremendous responsibility, even more so, upon us university leaders, administrators, to understand that reality and to skillfully pursue our income generating strategies. Now, the campuses clearly required to be ever more entrepreneurial. Thus, we have embraced the hybrid model. We have embedded the hybridity of our model within the strategic plan, that while we are a public university, we are not a for-profit university, we are a public university for collective development of our people. But that also imposes upon us a tremendous responsibility to be business-like in the transaction and of our affairs and in the management of our scarce resources, and to focus upon the issues of cost reduction, income generating, and therefore greater efficiency and effectiveness. This is where we have reached. I have no doubt that in the next financial year, the principal will report that the campus has done a little better in respect of income generating from external donor funders. This is because we have now established the Office for Global Affairs under a PVC, who has a long history of association with international donors and multinational agencies, and has been working very closely with MONA faculty in many different disciplines to find ways in which to bring income into the faculties to do their work. She's been magnificent so far. I know she's working with the Faculty of Sports, Faculty of Medicine, Science and Technology on the climate change issues. She has built that bridge, and we will no doubt see the results coming in. Also, in terms of humanities, and I know she has already negotiated a significant grant for the Faculty of Humanities and Education to help with the multilingual strategy of the campus and the university. So we are strengthening that alignment between the university and owners of private wealth, and indeed the public wealth sector, while we transition inexorably to the new methodology of the balanced budget. The years of deficit financing, those years are over. We have given the UGC, our governments, an assurance that in the next 2 to 3 years, we will have resolved this matter of deficit financing, and we will learn to live within the balanced budget, the resources provided, as we are now positioned to earn much more. The campus, no doubt, has to be commended also for the role it has played in enabling the university on the whole to cut its expenditure by over 10% in the last financial year. Our consolidated audited financial statement shows very clearly that the university did set out to cut its expenditure by 10% in a year, and it has succeeded in doing so. Critically, we have all sought to identify precisely what are responsible for driving our balance sheet from time to time into a negative situation. And we are appreciative of the fact that the UGC had established a committee to examine this matter. That committee is chaired by the Prime Minister of Barbados and Honorable Mayor Motley, Minister of Finance, and has as members all of the finance ministers of the campus territories. And their remit was to identify, by examining our balance sheet in the last 20 or so years, what drove us into deficit from time to time. And they have identified 3 issues that they are now focusing on. 1, government receivables has been a principal driver. 2, the impairment of those receivables that has leaked millions of dollars off the university's balance sheet. And third, the unfunded pension liability that also serves as a kind of brick around the neck of our institution. The Motley Committee has asked Mr. Miller, who is the president and CEO of Sagicor, who is a well-known and distinguished actuary, to find a strategy for recommending to UGC how we can resolve this unfunded pension liability that continues to hurt the Mona campus and all of our campuses. How we can address that. Critically, how we can find ways to tighten up those negotiations. And while we prepare to meet with our unions, to develop a strategy of taking this unfunded liability off the balance sheet of the university. And Dr. Dorbridge Miller is working with us very closely. Just Saturday morning, he made a presentation to all of the bursars and their accounting departments to talk this through. So we are leaving no stone unturned in the search to narrow the gap and eliminate all deficits from our balance sheets going forward. This is what we are committed to do. And already we are seeing significant progress. The principal has already spoken of an area in which Mona has made significant progress. Thank you, Principal, and your team. Bursa, thank you especially for your laser-like attention to the details of income and expenditure of the Mona campus. So this is wonderful news. In effect, we are restructuring and reinventing this university for the future. And I could feel within the principal's report that Mona is gradually garnering itself, collecting its energy, focusing its imagination, and getting ready for the new frontier. And what is that new frontier? Entrepreneurship writ large, bankable projects, big income generating projects, projects that in the medium term will impact positively the financial statements of this campus. Getting ready for this big frontier. This is the frontier. This is the moment of truth where after 7 decades of service to our region, we are now focusing not only to continue that, but we are focusing on making this campus and this university financially secure, strong for the future. All of the activities reported here by the principal are going to be contributors towards moving forward in that direction within this landscape. And of course, there are some other major strategies that we are working on as in a one UB approach. You've made reference, Principal, to shared services where the Mona campus will deep dive in collaboration with other campuses. We are getting ready to roll out the global campus to monetize our academic pedagogy, to build on our reputation globally, and to sell our programs to the world. We've done the business plan, we've discussed at FNGPC, and we are going into retreat in the first week of April to tighten those issues, to strengthen those strategies, to get some international support for these strategies. So we are all moving in the right direction. And Principal, thank you for your report. And I continue to wish you well, you and your colleagues, as you grapple with these challenges and prepare inexorably for the future that we're all looking forward to, the entrepreneurial university, the university that is laser focused on its financial sustainability. So thank you for your report. Thank you, colleagues. You have my blessings, and I continue to wish this campus, our ancestral campus, well, as next year we celebrate 75 years of service, 75 years of service of the Mona campus and the UWI on the whole. Thank you, Chairman. Those are my remarks. Thank you.
Commendations on the Motley Committee. The findings so far is confirming that what we all knew in terms of those areas of costs that we need to fix. And I look forward to seeing what Doddridge Miller and team will come up with in terms of how we deal with the unfunded pension liabilities. But in continuing our meeting, there's other persons who have passed over the past year who I did not see on the back of the piece of paper here. And I just read the names: Mr. Glasbert Gregory, Dr. Martin Orb, Ms. Deandra Thompson, Dr. James Mills, Ms. Amoy Lewis, Professor Emeritus Tick Lane, Mr. James Masolomon, CD, Dr. Sitaman Podar, Mr. Rudolph Blair, Dr. Keith Golden, Ms. Gloria Robertson, Ms. Marvel Gordon, Professor Emeritus Gerald Layla, Dr. Rose Davies, Ms. Patricia Lowe, Mr. Caswell Smith, Mr. Carlito Letman, and Professor Emeritus David Barker. Hope I've not left off anybody else. And again, we extend our deepest condolences to themselves, to their families, and to the community at the university with whom they worked these many years. Just to highlight persons who are online right now, they are members of the Chancellor's Committee. I see Paris Lewayi, I see Noel Levy, I see Jeffrey Cobham, I see Audrey Anderson, I see Wyvern Gager, and the University Bursar, Andrea McNish, and our registrar, Dr. Maurice Smith, and others. Welcome all for participating in this meeting today. We're now at a juncture where we receive questions and answers, all to be addressed by the principal. Any questions and answers, and you can also put them in the chat.
Chair, we have members of the media online, and we will entertain questions. Once we get them, we will direct them to the appropriate. I think the principal has spoken for an hour, so we will direct them to the appropriate person. And we have a great cloud of witnesses in here in terms of our dean, our vice chancellor, our university registrar, etc. So we welcome your questions at this time.
Any questions? You have a question there? Oh, Paris Leoyi? I didn't see his hand being. You can just click. Yeah, oh, his hand is up. Oh, yes. Paris, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Chairman. I don't think I could let this pass without commending the principal on an excellent report this morning. He has grown in leaps and bounds from his first report. What he has done is show the tremendous work and teamwork that has gone into it. And what struck me most is that he bared also the weaknesses that we have, and that we have more work to do. And that is emboldening us to be able to address the challenges that we have going forward. But for the work with his team, and especially the energy being put in by the Bursar, we can see that the work is not impossible. And with the brand name that we have, and the team and the encouragement that the Vice Chancellor just put in terms of the wicket being rolled ready for us, we just need to get the team properly in place. And I must put for you, Principal, as the owner of the orchard, that you have started the pruning, and you should not hesitate in terms of removing the dead wood to make sure that the crop and the harvest will be rich indeed as we move forward. So congratulations to you, and wishing you all the best for the new year. And know that we from the council will be giving you all the support that you will need. Congratulations.
The Deadwood part, I need to get some more information. But any questions from the media? Are we all happy with our university? There's a hand there. Stacey, previously Stacey Kennedy.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and good morning, Principal Weber and the team. I wanted to come in to add my commendation to you, Prof. Weber, and of course the wider team on this outstanding report during what was undoubtedly a very challenging COVID year. I'm very pleased to see the range of initiatives in support of student success, faculty development, the increased use of data for effective decision making, and of course the continued focus on excellent research in the service of national and regional development. I've also noted the many partnerships that were leveraged by the campus to extend the reach of your work and also to amplify the impact that the Mona campus is making. As we transition to this second phase of our AAA strategic plan, and of course intensify our focus on the revenue revolution, as our Vice Chancellor has said, the Office of Global Affairs stands ready to continue to work closely with the Mona campus and to advance all of our strategic initiatives. Over the past 5 months, let me just add, in this new role, I have focused on harmonizing our One UE approach to maximizing the opportunities presented by many global partnerships, and this work will continue to be intensified in the months ahead. Let me also state that the focus is on specific priorities, which will allow us to harness the expertise that we have across our 5 campuses, as well as provide support to the Mona campus and to each of our campuses in key areas. Firstly, internationalization and faculty and student mobility. I know that is a big focus and priority given the need to increase our numbers of international students and the funding that can be generated there. Secondly, resource mobilization for strategic initiatives, and you've mentioned some of them, digital transformation and the work that we're doing on sustainability and sustainability practices across our campuses. We will also be strengthening the network of our global centers and institutes that we have, which of course help to increase UWI's prominence and visibility, our global advocacy, and of course our global rankings. And then our regional Office of Global Affairs, our regional repository of MOUs and collaboration agreements. I've noted the 27 MOUs signed by the Mona campus in the past year, so congratulations on those. And I have shared this with our team to ensure that it is included in our regional online repository so that we can maximize all of the opportunities presented in these international agreements. So again, Principal and team, congratulations to you. You can count on my own support and the support of the wider Office of Global Affairs, and we look forward to working more closely with you in the months and years ahead. Thank you.
Any other questions? I must say that it broke my heart to see our Jamaican students in the Ukraine seeking access to education. And it is for us to ensure that our organization becomes sufficiently capitalized that we can provide education here. So in your work, PVC, we can look at how we can leverage the ratings that we have to ensure that we get some funding to support those more needy students, such that they won't have to go to such faraway places and suffer the way that they do. All right, any other questions?
Chairman.
No? Okay. Any other questions? Media? Jovan Johnson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Jarrett, and good morning to the university community. Professor Weber, I note one of the big issues we covered last year involving the university was the implementation of the hospital information management system. And I note the developments you've reported about the auditing. A couple of questions on that. Is there a timeline for the completion of the audit? And a broader question, the issue raised questions of accountability involving the university itself and its various campuses. Can you point out transformations that would have occurred under your tenure to improve the accountability and decision making of the university? And third, the third question, could you indicate the extent of the COVID impact on the provision of scholarships to the university, the campus in particular?
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson, and welcome to the UWI Mona campus, yet again. On the question of the timeline for the HIMS, so if one is going to be audited, if one is going to look at oneself, you really need to do it from a different perspective. And the Vice Chancellor, in order to have this adequately and properly done, asked for the audit to be done from the University Management Audit Office. We at the Mona campus, we've been putting together the documentation so that we can provide the evidence and the information such as we have it, so that the audit can proceed. So it is the University Management Audit Office who would have those data and have to give you the timeline. I don't know if the VC wants to comment on it, but it would be my expectation that it would come to conclusion before the end of the current academic year. We end our academic year, of course, in May. So I would think that we're looking at something which is going to come to fruition within the next 2 months. We have provided all the information that has been required. And as you saw in my slide, we have continued discussions with the team, with both the hospital, UHWI, and with the principals from AIS in terms of how do we move forward, how do we determine the ownership, the management, and the whatever is to come thereafter. Looking at a digital records management medical system. So I'm not sure if that is something, if those timelines are sufficient from what I've said. On your second question of accountability, so we continue to look for accountability, not just by external, but internal. We have, throughout our mechanism, started a review and actually started a mechanism of asking every senior management official to go through a process of identifying goals. There's a review pathway through the year, and at the end of each year, for the first time in this same 2020-21, I suppose I should have reported that, Chairman, we actually have an appraisal that's been done on all our senior management, which covers the academic, administrative, as well as the financial. We've done one for the registrar. We did one with the bursar, even though she's just come on board. I've already done her performance appraisal. So we've done a fair amount of accountability frameworks for our senior management. The other thing that we've done, however, is that we've set up a risk portfolio. So we actually are setting up, if you looked at what we talked about, the commercialization and the different offices and streamlining, we're setting up a risk portfolio and a risk management center, which is going to have 2 or 3 persons. We've so far identified 2 other persons, and they're already being trained. PricewaterhouseCoopers is helping us with a training process. What risks are we exposing ourselves? So every decision going forward will have that as an additional accountability component. The decision-making process is driven by data wherever we can find the data. And wherever we can't, we pause and we now do the due diligence. And by opening the discussion, the various levels, and the Vice Chancellor would have just spoken about the need for us to have, for instance, our finance and general purposes. We have a finance subcommittee, which Chairman has alluded to, which for me behaves like almost like a watchdog, allowing due financial discussions to happen by those who are so attuned to be able to give us the advice so that we can take the best decision. So our decision-making process always has been, and even more so now, rests on the information that we have. And that information starts from market surveys before we embark on new exercises, goes all the way to financial projections before we can commit the sparse funds that we have. In terms of scholarships, so I'm not sure that we'll say that COVID has resulted in the scholarships being reduced. We, up to last year, so in the 1920 academic year, we gave out $941 million worth of scholarships and bursaries and various types of assistance to students. based on our Office of Student Financing, which is from the Deputy Principal's office with the bursar. We were unable to continue that kind of support because we just don't have the funds to do it. So we've cut back, and as I reported here, we're down to 550 million, which is still a lot. I mean, they cover a lot of students doing that. But the gap did not result in students being left in the cold. We have been able to close the gap by finding new partners. And like this year, the year in report for the 2020-21 year, we found 84 new partners who gave us, whether it's a little scholarship or a little bursary or a little fund. Some of them decided they would give us the principal and not engage a scholarship for 2 years, so it had a chance to grow interest. Some said, here's what we can find. It's only a 1-year scholarship. Here, take it and move ahead with that. So I would say that the greatest impact has been where there have been offers by the university for 50% bursaries or dispensations we would offer, which we could no longer carry in terms of a financial load. But where scholarships and bursaries are concerned to students, we've been able to fill the gap by finding other partners.
And just to add in terms of the accountability issues that you sought to raise, at the suggestion and instrumentality of the Vice Chancellor, we had a session where all directors of companies that are owned by the university were subject to training, led by, I think it was Dr. Patrick Hilton from NCB, who performed that director's training course, and a clear set of objectives identified for each director, which would include accountability elements that you referred to.
Chair, we have a question online from Paula Linda from Trinidad and Tobago Newsday. Principal, she's congratulating you and at the same time asking for some clarification in respect to your slide on the improvement in the comprehensive income. There are two figures there, JA 467 million or 1.5 billion. She just want to clarify what the figure is and whether it is in Jamaican dollars.
Okay, so it certainly is in Jamaican dollars. I try to keep everything in one currency because I have a hard time doing the conversion. And then the conversion changes so often that you end up misquoting or miscalculating. I'm going back to the figure just to be sure I have it as she has it. Okay, so let me explain. So when you do the comprehensive income, at the top of the slide is what she's talking about. Thank you very much, Paula. So the 467 million is our comprehensive income. What we've put there is that it's a comprehensive income or a 1.5 billion improvement over last year, because last year there was a $1 billion loss. So take that $1 billion loss and put this 467 million, you have a 1.5 difference between the two. So the 1.5 refers to a difference as opposed to a total value. The comprehensive positive this year is 467 million.
All right, and Indar Ramnarain. Okay, yes, there you go. Go ahead.
That will do. Good morning, everyone, and congratulations, Principal Weber. I really enjoyed your presentation, and I'm really pleased to see the progress that the Mona campus is making. My question is related to student enrollment. Yeah, so you indicated that your student enrollment you have not really lost too many students. In fact, you have gained, particularly at the postgraduate level. At St. Augustine, we are having the opposite problem in that we are losing students at that level, probably because of the lack of support from GATE. But would you be willing to share your secrets with us? And that, I mean, after all, we are one university, so because postgraduate enrollment is really important to any university. And I would really like to know what you all are doing differently in order to increase the number of postgraduate students at your campus. Thanks, sir. Thanks, Professor.
Briefly, before you have one-on-one discussion with Indar, but very briefly, what have you done?
Well, thank you very much, Indar. The key is set by the society, And I think the message we've been pushing of retool to get what you want. So if you have a first degree, here's your chance. COVID doesn't mean you're down and out. COVID says, why don't you get something added to where you are? Why don't you do something different? Why don't you take on a new skill set? So we've done a lot of that, and we've worked through the business sector in terms of reaching out. You notice most of it is in the taught programs. So areas such as our Mona School of Business, our management portfolios, a lot of students have wanted to do. Our largest increase actually came in accounts, where we moved the number of students in the MSc accounting program just grew tremendously. Add that to your portfolio. If you had something else, you're adding something to make you a better student. So I think it's just how we positioned within the COVID to increase the numbers.
And also responding to demand. You know, people want promotion in their jobs, and they see that possibly through advanced degrees in business. And so you have a lot of persons who just want to get ahead and to achieve in their jobs. Any other questions we have here? Anything in the chat, Registrar?
Is Jovian Johnson's hand still up?
No, it's down now.
No, it's not. Okay.
That's it. With that, I believe we're now at the close of the public session. And I want to thank everybody, Vice Chancellor, Principal, Deans, others in the Academy for the work done for the past year, a very difficult year for the university and for Jamaica, to enable us to have achieved what we did. But we also need to keep an eye out on the future. As you heard the Vice Chancellor pointed out, the world will definitely change with the with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We have already seen that globally price of commodities are increasing. We can certainly expect inflation to increase in Jamaica on top of the post-coronavirus inflationary trends. And so money will be tight out there, not just in Jamaica, but globally, as governments try to recover the expenditure. And so therefore this university will have to continue its efforts to manage costs. But there's an opportunity as well, as you have heard, in terms of the digital platform, how this university can truly become global by offering its products to many students internationally. There are so many areas of study at this university which is attractive to persons from across the globe. And I hope that during the year we can exploit that opportunity as we build out on this university. I'm pleased to hear about the 1%, the top 1%, 1 point what percent? 1.5% rating, global rating for the university. That, of course, is a badge to encourage greater levels of marketing and support for the university. And so, with that said, I want to thank the media for being with us here today as well. And have a good weekend and a good year. I'll see you next year.